welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and I'm joined by Max right now, and we're going to discuss the news that broke yesterday, of course, that Morgan Schneiderlin has left Everton Football Club. He's gone to OGC Nice. I think it's around a €2 million apparent transfer fee, but of course, on top of that, you've got a lot of wages going off the wage bill. There's a lot to debate, and we've got to try and see where this leaves us now in terms of midfield. What do we do next, and basically what we thought of Morgan Schneiderlin in his 3.5 years at Everton. So we'll get straight into it, Max. What was your opinion on Schneiderlin's 3.5-year stint at Goodison?
Firstly, yes, I know the transfer was labelled as undisclosed, but I don't think it's as lowly as £2 million. I've heard around 7, but at the same time, you don't know what percentages of that is add-ons and certain clauses within his contract. You hit the nail on the head there. It's certainly, I think, the main thing to derive from this transfer is the fact that we are getting a good piece of the wage bill sort of lifted. That makes sense.
120k, I think.
Yeah, upwards of 100k a week. And to answer your question and what I thought of Morgan Schneiderlin, I think the man that pulls the strings got me on here on purpose to sort of defend Morgan Schneiderlin, because I think anyone sort of followed me and my opinions over the last couple of years. I was a really big fan of Morgan Schneiderlin, and like we were saying just before we started recording, I think that there's an excellent argument there for Morgan Schneiderlin as an individual, that he's had a really successful career in England. I think he joined when he was an 18-year-old lad to Southampton, who were in League One at the time under Nigel Atkins, and he was part of a very talented crop of Southampton players that managed to get up into the Premier League. You know, you think of the players that he was alongside there, you know, Adam Lallana, Wanyama, Mane, Graziano Pele. All of them have gone their separate ways, of course, which tends to be the case when you have I don't want to be disrespectful to Southampton in any way, but a lesser club that have
they're definitely a selling club. They've always seemed to try and profit off the best players.
Yeah, 100%. And when you seem to get that sort of mass group of talent, they all seem to go their separate ways. I know a hell of a lot of them seem to end up across Stanley Park at Liverpool, but Schneiderlin's obviously chose to go to Manchester United. I would make the case that I don't think Manchester United's been the best club for any player to go to for the last 5 years or so, really. But from Schneiderlin's perspective, you know, he can put forward that he won a treble. I remember Jose Mourinho tried to label it as a treble at the time.
Was that the Charity Shield, the Europa, and the FA Cup or something?
I think it was the League Cup, the Europa League, and the FA Cup.
No, it was the League Cup, Europa, and the Charity Shield.
Was it?
Yeah, they didn't even win the FA Cup.
Hardly. Didn't they win it against Crystal Palace?
That was under Van Gaal. That's right after that.
Yeah, so you know, he has still accumulated quite a decent trophy haul at Manchester United. And I think at Manchester United, that's where a bit of the shine of his career got taken off, really, if that makes sense. I think when he was at Southampton, he was lauded really highly as a really intelligent defensive midfielder that covers a lot of ground without you necessarily knowing it. I think positionally he was excellent. He knew where to be, when to be to mop that ball up. Obviously played a bit under Ronald Koeman, which was the attraction of when he come to us in, I believe, 2017.
Yeah, January 17.
And for me, mate, when he was playing alongside Idrissa Gueye in that first season, I thought he was absolutely dynamite. I thought that...
I think we all did.
Yeah, the relationship that they developed on the pitch was really symbiotic, and was obviously influential in us getting, albeit Europa League qualifiers, but getting ourselves back into Europe. And I feel that's where things
goes wrong from there.
That's where things start going downhill, and people like you and your opinions start coming into this.
Yeah, well, I think that was probably the first evidence. I think he played in the Atalanta game where we lost 3-0, and that was like when I first started to lose faith in Ronald Koeman. But obviously, I think Schneiderlin, I think the tide turned on him when there was these rumours about Jordan Unsworth's caretaker spell where he got sent home from training. and obviously between then, I think he got sent off against Lyon in Europe as well. I think there was a couple of, and I remember a stinker he put in against Burnley as well when we lost 1-0 towards the end of Koeman's time. So there was a lot of bad performances in that sort of spell. I know we weren't at our best anyway, but he did seem to stand out for some reason as the worst performer, maybe because he took such a step down from the level that, like you say, you saw, what we all saw in that first half of season. But it was very disappointing, and I think he was getting a lot of red cards, and which never ends easier to fans if you, like, I mean, well, Duncan Ferguson got loads of red cards, but it was a bit different. He was getting silly red cards for, like, kicking out. Sometimes, I said this to Terry often, I felt like at times when the going got tough, he tried to get himself sent off on purpose because he didn't have the stomach for the fight. I was convinced about that. Especially that Crystal Palace game at the opening game of this season.
Yeah, I seen someone was pretty sharp with the stats for when the deal was announced, saying Morgan Schneiderlin got more red cards than he got combined goals and assists at Everton. I think he got 3 red cards and 2 goals and assists put together. But for me, I think the standout performance was, I believe it was Mangala's debut when we played 3 at the back at Arsenal away. If I'm not wrong, am I thinking of that at the 6-1?
5-1 we lost.
5-1. And yeah, he was just kind of absent in the midfield, really. I don't know whether that sort of systematically and tactically that was down to being in a 3 in the back, being managed by, of course, at the time, Big Sam. But yeah, for me, that sort of set the tone, which I think Evertonians are a unique group of football fans in that, regardless of your technical ability, the bare minimum is that you put 100% effort in all the time. Absolutely. When you're on the pitch. And
I stand by that.
I think most people have every right to do so. But at the same time, I think Schneiderlin's game is that of which depends on interpreting the game ahead of time, if that makes sense. As I say, being in the right place at the right time, and putting in that vital interception, putting in that tackle, and progressing the ball forward.
He never seemed to do any of that for Everton, though. In the final few years, it was always seemed to be a bit off the pace. Like we saw the Cantwell goal for Norwich in the last Norwich game, and he didn't track his run. And obviously, when he does get the ball, a lot of the time it was backwards and sideways passes. It was exactly what you're saying was his forte, if you like, particularly in his Southampton days. We didn't see anywhere near enough of that in his time at Everton.
100%. I mean, I think we saw the odd resurgence under the likes of Marco Silva and whatnot, but nothing was really sustainable. And I know I remember hearing that he went through some sort of bad personal sort of situations at the time, and I'm not discounting that by any means, but I do kind of endorse his transfer now, if that makes sense. As I say, I believe he can look back at his career in England and think, you know what, might not have ended on the sweetest note, but I've had success. I'm 30 years of age now, and I'm going back to my homeland, going back to France to play under Patrick Vieira. Of course, I think that's part of the pull. I mean, for God's sake, mate, Nice, there's worse places in the world to play your football. You can't really argue with that. But from
they don't have a hot walk in Nice, though.
But at the same time, as you rightly said at the start of the video, that for Everton Football Club now, fingers crossed and touch wood, we're on the latter stage of our transitional phase, if that makes sense.
Starting to shift more and more of the dead wood, if you like, or not, maybe not even dead wood, but players who were taking up more of a wage than they warranted. People like Schneiderlin, for instance, obviously there is dead wood, like Martina and Nias, who are out of contract this summer as well. Martin Stekelenburg has announced, I think he's extended his contract to the end of the season, but he's going to Ajax, isn't he?
Yeah, I suppose, given the global pandemic and whatnot, you are going to see some sort of unique contract situations, but that's a bit of a mad one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think, I'm not even sure, was even the... Oh, no, we had two keepers on the bench in the derby, didn't we? That was
Yeah.
intriguing. No, I think that's the death knell for Umar Niasse if you can't get on the bench ahead of two keepers.
We'll see you, mate. We'll see. And fingers crossed, the more businesses to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's business in both directions. I think it's going to be more of a sale summer than a incoming summer, that's for sure. And
Yeah,
it's all about that balance sheet, isn't it? When I think we've got to try and toe the line with FFP, with it sort of treading quite dangerously
Mm-hmm.
to get some of those wages. And I think this is a really good start, and hopefully we see more of this between now and the start of the new season, whenever that may be.
100%.
But just before we finish, Schneiderlin, what do you say? What do you think his legacy is at Everton?
Red cards and not looking asked, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
It is a shame, as I say. A player that did have massive potential to be a cog in a well-oiled machine. Unfortunately,
The machine wasn't well oiled.
Oh, it was broken, and he was the part that was making it faulty at times. But as I say, that's not to be disrespectful to Morgan Schneiderlin. I think he can look back on his career in England with some fondness.
I think he can do, yes, certainly. I think his time at Everton, though, has got to be one of those. Came in a lot of promise, big money, didn't really deliver, and that sums it up. And too often it's summed Everton up over the time that he's been here as well. So maybe almost fitting, and maybe it's a symbolic moment that we move him on at a time where hopefully we're starting to get our act together.
Yep,
fingers crossed for a better season. We'll have some more astute signings in the not so distant future.
You'd like to think so. Also like to think that we'd have a new stadium in a couple of years, but you know.
Just not the morning I want to wake up to, in case you're wondering. Definitely don't go on Twitter this morning, guys, if you don't want to see what's going down there. But anyway, that's the Morgan Schneiderlin debate of sorts. Let us know what you thought of Schneiderlin's spell at Everton. 3.5 years. What did he do right? What did he do wrong? We know there's plenty he did wrong, but let us know your opinions on Morgan Schneiderlin and what the transfer means for Everton moving forward, maybe with the transfers and the FFP. Let us know your opinions. Give us a like as well, and give the channel a subscribe. We've got loads of content coming up in the next week or so, with football coming thick and fast. But anyway, thank you guys for watching on the Toffee Blues.